Alright guys, welcome back again to more Umineko. Looks like the games between the cousins is finally about to begin, what with Kinzo here starting it off and causing a ruckus amongst the family. So we're about to see what's going to happen here, and it's going to be pretty interesting because I'm curious to see how he plans on playing this game out, considering Beatrice has her own way and we've never seen Kinzo's scenario play out until now. So if anything else, I hope you all continue to enjoy. Thank you again for all love and support. Let's see this through. Alright everyone, and we're back.
Test って？
よく聞きなさい。
Once again, there was a call from Kraus to the guest house. And the message was that Kinzo wanted to hold a test to see if the grandchildren had the qualifications to be the next head.
当主様は次期当主をお父さんたちの兄弟からではなく孫たちの中から選びたいとそうおっしゃっている。
From Kraus's restrained style of speech, Jessica realized as his daughter that he was being forced to speak. And she was forced into the realization that the hostages were being exposed to danger even now. And that if they refused this test, there was a possibility that the hostages would be harmed.
それで私たちはどうすればいいの？
待て。
Kraus held the receiver away from his ear, then looked at the grinning Kinzo on the other side of the bars. Kinzo gave his next order.
テストの前に無関係なものを排除しなくてはならない。郷田と熊沢がそこにいるのであろう。テストに干渉されては邪魔なのでな。彼らをゲストハウスより追放せよ。
追放ですか。
バラ庭園に園芸倉庫があったはず。そこへ郷田と熊沢を閉じ込めて施錠せよ。まずはそれからだ。直ちに遂行するように伝えよ。我が武具たちが監視する。疑わしい行為に及べばテストは直ちに中止し、お前たちすべてを生贄として処刑する。
わかりました。もしもしジェシカ、今から父さんの言うことをよく聞きなさい。
Kraus relayed to Jessica the orders to lock up Goda and Kumasawa.
どんなテストをなさるつもりですか？
実に簡単なテストだとも。孫たちの覚悟を見せてもらうだけだ。さて、どんな結果を見せてくれるのか。
With displeasure, Kirie watched Kraus, who was talking with the children. It's regrettable, but for now we can't refuse orders. In this dungeon, a feeble resistance won't amount to anything. If we provoke him too much and drive him into a position where he might kill us, there will no longer be any way to stop this murderer. For now, the only choice left is to obey his rules without agitating him, all the while waiting for a chance. However, if we continue to obediently follow his commands, the children might be attacked in this so-called test and they might even lose their lives. Whether we feign obedience or try to resist, nothing will cause the situation to improve. Anyway, keeping our eyes peeled so that we don't let a single chance escape until the very end is the only resistance possible now. While telling herself this, Kirie watched over Kraus as he delivered Kinzo's orders.
キリエさん、ここは辛抱しましょう。
You know, who's to say that Kinzo won't have his grandchildren face off against each other? At the end of the day, that's pretty much what I'm assuming is going to happen, and this will cause even more discord between the families that are trapped in this dungeon, which will cause an even more bigger uproar, and Kinzo will end up just killing everyone anyway. And then there's also the other thought I had in mind that he's having Goda and Kumasawa removed from the mansion to be locked up. But who's to say that's not a part of his plan to have these two be a part of his deal in the first place?
わかってるわ。悔しいけれど、今は待つしかない。この鉄格子さえ何とかできれば、私たちは屋敷へ戻ることができるんだから。
なんとかここを出られれば、試してみましょう。金蔵さん、頼みがある。ん？何か、我が友よ。金蔵さんが子供たちを試したいというのはよくわかった。金蔵さんの納得のいくようにするといい。金蔵さんの力がなければ、とっくに潰れていたかもしれない後ろ宮家だ。その担い手を慎重に選びたい気持ち、よくわかる。それに、そのための親族会議だ。私ら、邪魔はせんよ。お前の理解が得られて助かる。そうだ。これは親族会議なのだ。私が次期当主を選び決定する最後の親族会議なのだよ。それでだが金蔵さん、ここはあまりに冷えすぎる。あんたのテストの邪魔はせんから、もう少し暖かい場所に移してもらうことはできんかね。
At Nanjo's words, the slight signs that Kinzo's mood had been improving were blown away. A moment of silence struck Nanjo as Kinzo glared at him with dangerous eyes, as though evaluating him.
確かにここは冷えますね。老体にはおつらいでしょう。親方様、上の部屋に移し替えても良いのでは？
それはできぬ。甘いぞ、南條。お前は一手猶予を与えるような素振りで、実に華麗に布石を打つではないか。その手には乗らんぞ。凍えるというなら、真っ赤に焼けた石炭でも敷き詰めてやればよい。
申し訳ございません。
For Gilead tried to help out too, but in the end, Kinzo was having none of it.
あなたたちはおとなしいのね。その気になれば、こんな鉄格子、簡単に破れるでしょうに。
ここを破ったとて、何もなりません。
確かに。ここを破ったなら、ゴールドスミスのゲームが終わることを意味する。あなたたちも、そしてゲストハウスの人間たちも即座に金蔵の儀式の生贄となるでしょうね。でも、案外、あなたたちだけかもしれないわよ。この状況を打開できる力を持っているのは。ね？黄金鏡にたどり着きたいんでしょ？叶えたい夢がいっぱいあるんでしょ？
ガープ、挑発はいけませんよ。これはあなたのゲームではない。親方様の、そしてお嬢様のゲームです。
どうしたロノウェイ？
いえいえ何も。捕虜とおしゃべりをしていました。お許しを。
Garp sent one final sneering smile at Kanon, then turned away. Kanon could only bite his lower lip and shake his fists.
くそ。よく頑張ったね。よく我慢したよ。
僕たちは無力だ。家具だから。
そうだね。私たちは無力。でも家具は必要とされることだって。そして愛されることだってあるよ。今の私たちは暗い地下室にしまわれているだけ。きっといつか誰かが愛してくれる。必要としてくれるから。だから今は挑発に乗らないで えよう。
お父さん、ゴーダたちを倉庫に閉じ込めるよう指示をしました。
よかろう。電話を切ってよい。シエスタ姉妹。孫たちがゴーダと熊沢を閉じ込めるのを監視せよ。もしも不審な動きがあるようならば、その時点で次期当主を選ぶテストは終了だ。
When Kinzo made his order, the Siesta sisters appeared behind him in a line.
了解であります。石膏は私がやる。556と410は両翼支援。45は全集警戒。
00-556は。
そうだった。すまない。
いい子でした。だから私は嫌いに。いい奴は。
何をしているか、シエスタ姉妹。我が命令を遂行せよ。
失礼しました。では、監視に向かうであります。出撃！
The Siesta sisters erased their forms simultaneously. Nanjo and Kirei witnessed the instant they appeared and disappeared as if by teleportation. But they interpreted this as if they had probably moved in and out of darkness in a way that only looked like teleportation, and the two could do nothing but rub their eyes.
さて、私はテストの準備をしよう。ロノウェ、ガープ、お前たちには試験官を頼む。ワルギリアはこやつらを監視するように。何しろ我が家具が2人いる。一応は警戒せよ。
He glanced sharply at Shannon and Kanon. Tightly closing her eyes, Shannon gave a silent bow, answering wordlessly that she would not cause any trouble.
かしこまりました。注意します。
リーヤの老体には寒くて辛くない？湯たんぽでも持ってくる？
うるさいです。早く追いきなさい。ガップ。
さてさて、テストとは、そして試験官とは、今回のゲームは変わった試みですね。お嬢様を楽しませる展開になると良いのですが。
さあさあおいでなさい、ヤギの従者たち。
Vergilia called down to the dark, and from that spot, 3 massive goat-headed attendants slowly melted into vision.
リーチェの眷属ね。便利だわ。しかも暖かそうだし。ああ、湯たんぽの代わりね。なら、ヤギより羊の方がいいんじゃない？
カシミヤ臓器のくせにうるさいですよ。彼らは賢くはありませんが、命令に忠実で強靭な頼れる従者たちです。
任せるぞ。我が友ワルギリアよ。残りの者は私と来い。
Kinzo turned with a grand swish of his cloak. Following him were Ronov and Gop, as well as the 3 recently summoned goat attendants.
あなたたちは私と残るのですよ。ついていかないように。
The goats jumped in surprise and then came plodding back. Kirie, who had been watching in disbelief as all of this played out, couldn't help but snort.
愉快な部下ね。ゴールドスミス教より死後の許可は与えられていませんよ。
She was probably a little embarrassed. Vergilia had spoken coldly, but Kirie could see right through that, and for a little while she wouldn't restrain her muffled laughter. However, on the inside, Kirie was surprised at the number of people Kinzo had with him. You know, it's a little weird that Vergilia is acting this way. She's usually more in control. Because including Kinzo himself, at least 10 enemies had already been spotted. The dungeon they were currently locked in was supposedly underneath the hidden mansion called Quadorian. Although the mansion's existence had been whispered of, not even Kraus had known for a fact until today. Were there actually several facilities like this in Just how many humans are in Rokenjima locked away by the typhoon? No, actually, are we the only ones under the impression that there are only 18 people on this island? As we bickered over whether Beatrice existed or not, and racked our brains over something as minor as a 19th person, were we on this island the perfect example of frogs in a well? No, wait, in fact, at this point, are there actually more people on the enemy's side than on ours?
What is happening? Exactly. 魔女？悪魔？魔法？それを信じろというの？おかしいのは私の目？それとも頭なの？頭がどうにかなりそうよ。
A mass murder by magic. Demons forming and disappearing in thin air. More importantly than the enemy's numbers. How should we interpret the various things thrust before our eyes that cannot be explained with the common sense of this world? Kide started to feel like she didn't know what was going on anymore. And while desperately battling the urge to abandon everything and give up, she clenched her teeth in an attempt to hold on to her sanity. Obviously, Goda and Kumasawa were quite unwilling to be locked in the Rose Garden shed. But they had been threatened that if they resisted, the hostages' safety could not be guaranteed. It was fairly hard to get them to agree. But once the idea was raised that their safety might actually be guaranteed if the key to the guarding storehouse was to be handed to them through a cracked open window after they were shut inside, and it was suggested that the blankets and food could be carried in for them, they were finally convinced.
ここは寒々しいですね。私たちはいつまでここに閉じ込められていればいいのでしょうか。
下手をすると、月曜の朝まで丸々一昼夜はいてもらうことになるかもしれない。本当にお二人には申し訳なく思うよ。
You know, I'm actually wondering what's going on with Game Piece Battler, not Game Piece Battler, sorry, Meta Battler and Angie, as well as what's going on with Beatrice. Like, I wonder what they're all thinking right now. I want to see what's going on their end, like what his game plan is in order to try and thwart this situation. George and Battler cleared a space on the floor, then spread the blankets there. They also left the canned food, crackers, and other light snacks they had brought.
月曜の朝までを二人でこの量じゃ辛いな。せめて厨房に寄れたなら。
余計な場所には行くなと言われてる。私たちは監視されてるらしいしな。くそ。
何もお力になれないことを申し訳なく思います。こんな時に皆さんのおそばにいてこその私どもなのに。
仕方ないです。それより、熊沢さんをよろしく頼みますね。何が起こるかわからない。いざという時は、臨機応変に助けてほしい。そして何よりも、無事でいてほしい。
ええ、わかっています。皆さんこそ、気をつけてくださいね。今の親方様は、まるで人の命を、チェスの駒のように奪います。気をつけてください。
Goda stared at the floor, remembering that atrocity in the dining hall, even now unable to believe what had happened, and he hung his head in shame at his inability to fully describe that terror.
ありがとう。くれぐれも注意してくださいね。熊沢さんも。
ジョージさんたちも、くれぐれもご用心なさってくださいね。もう、私には何が何やら、さっぱりわかりませんとも。
それじゃあ、僕たちは行きます。行こう、バトラ君、ジェシカちゃん。ほら、マリアちゃんも。
おー。
Looking at the painful expression on the faces of the pair to be imprisoned, it became hard to close the shutter. But we can't disobey. We're being watched. We brought the shutter down and locked it. Then George headed up to the small window on the side of the storehouse. It was a small lattice window which could only be used for light and ventilation. It looked like something from a jail, making the two of them seem even more pitiable. But on the other hand, it would protect them from Kinzo and his subordinates, or so one would hope. He opened the window and called out.
大丈夫ですか？寒くないですか？
ええ。毛布をこんなにいただきましたからね。くるまっていれば、きっと平気ですよ。
石油ストーブとかを持ってくればよかったな。
ここじゃ換気できないからね。辛いだろうけど、今は仕方がない。僕たちは、人質を取られている。逆らえない。
畜生。なんとか、キレイさんたちを救出することができれば。
聞かれてるかもしれないよ。ゴーダさん、これ、そのシャッターの鍵です。
George threw the key in through the tiny window.
確かに、お預かりします。
Goda took the key and after showing it to Kumasawa, placed it in his own pocket. There was only one key to the gardening shed shutter. That was being held by those who were locked up inside it. If the children had held onto it, then if it was stolen from them by some chance, that would risk exposing the lives of those in the shed to danger. And even with the key, the shutter could not be opened from the inside. It satisfied Kinzo's demand. However, there was now no longer any way to open the shed from the outside either. This would protect them. Kinzo had ordered that they be confined, and we could do nothing but trust that this code-locked room would protect them. Holding Maria's hand, Jessica watched George hand over the key, then looked over the thickets in the pitch-black rose garden. Somewhere in this darkness, somebody was hiding, watching to see whether they obeyed orders or not. Of course, merely pointing their flashlight out there did nothing to make any suspicious silhouettes appear. But somebody was surely out there, hiding and watching. They were hit many times with an urge to scream at them, but they held that back through reason. The four children left the area behind, repeatedly looking back over their shoulders. The feeble light from the light bulb in the gardening storehouse was seeping out slightly. Was it at all possible that this insane incident would somehow come to an end, so that they could see those two again? To George, who had closed the shutter himself, the resistance of the lock made it feel as though he had killed them with his own hands.
それでも、俺たちは逆らえないんだよな。
テストだと。クソじじいめ、ふざけやがって。それで母さんたちが殺されて、父さんたちが捕まって、理解できねえぜ。ぶっ殺してやる。
大丈夫だよ、ジェシカお姉ちゃん。悲しくなんかないよ。
マリオ。
もうすぐ魔女は蘇る。
There's the look again.
すぐに黄金鏡で会えるよ。
We will now refer to her as Broken Maria.
不謹慎なことで笑うんじゃねえぜ。何が魔女復活の儀式だ。妄想はじいさまの頭の中だけにしときゃいいものを。こいつは高くつくぜ。畜生め。
ゲストハウスに戻ろう。おじいさまから電話があった際に、不在だったらまずい。
Urged on by George, everyone began walking towards the guest house. At that moment, Jessica spun around and roared towards the darkness of the rose garden.
おい！誰か見てんだろ！ジジイに伝えとけ！絶対にぶち殺してやるってな！行こう！
Of course, there was no reply, only the howl of the wind and rain. The children returned to the guest house, in fear of what would be waiting for them when they got back. After they departed, from the exact point in the darkness that Jessica had yelled at, two rabbit's ears sprung up.
ごめんなさい。バレてました。45がすっとろいからバレたに。竜王様に怒られる。ごめんなさい。竜王様に言いつけるのは許してください。
黙れ静かに。どうせハッタリだ。 合田と熊沢の監禁は確認した。任務完了。報告に戻るぞ。
イエーイイエーイ泣いた。
連帯責任で人参と水だけの刑になりたいか。行くぞ。
It certainly seemed to be a fact that they were being watched. Because once they returned to the cousin's room, turned the lights on, and lay down on their beds, the phone rang again. Up until now, Jessica had been answering the phone seeing as it was her house. But now it was George, as the eldest, who picked it up. This time, Kirei-san was on the other end of the phone. George handed it to Battler out of consideration.
もしもし、キレイさんか。そっちは大丈夫なのか。
心配をありがとう。今のところは快適よ。ごめんなさい。死後は慎めと命令されてる。今から伝えることをよく聞いて。
The fact that they were hostages still hadn't changed, and Kinzo, or one of his subordinates, was probably listening to this conversation. Battler restrained the urge to talk about other things and focused on what Kirei had to say.
テストはジェシカちゃん、ジョージ君、バトラ君、そしてマリアちゃんの順で行われるそうよ。順番に呼び出すから、それまでその部屋を出ないこと。
Oh, so it's one by one?
呼び出された者は一人で指定された場所に向かうこと。
Battler repeated it out loud so that his cousins would also understand.
ジェシカ、兄貴、俺、マリアの順で、呼び出しがあるまで部屋にいろ。だな。わかった。マリアもなのかよ。9歳の子にまで。クソジジイは何を強いる気なんだ。畜生め。
後ろ宮家の命運はあなたたちに握られてるわ。頑張って。
うん。ああ。
Battler noticed a strange nuance in Kirei's words. Even without any blood connection, he could still understand thanks to the long-lasting bond they shared. Now it's not the time to worry about the future of the Ushiromiya family. That wasn't the message that Kirei wanted to send. She probably meant there is no way for us to escape from this dungeon, and we can only wait to be rescued. Our lives are in your hands. Something like that.
ああ。任せてくれ。
In that case, Battler is very perceptive, because he is incredibly right.
どんなテストか知らねえが上等だぜ。受けて立ってやら。本気のテストなんだよな。マジにやっちまっていいんだよな。
ええ、本気のテストよ。おじい様も本気で試すつもりでいるわ。
ダメだな。全然ダメだぜ。死にかけの老いぼれが俺と本気？寝言は棺に入ってから言いやがれ。そこにいるジジイに言っとけ。次期当主は俺だ。
Oh, them's are fighting words.
その最初の仕事は、てめえの面に鉄拳ぶち込んでやることだってな。
Even without Kirei having to repeat it, Battler's powerful declaration of war reached Kinzo's ears.
バトラー、それは実に楽しみであるぞ。一度は後ろ宮の名を捨てた男が何を身につけ、何の境地に至って我が前に現れるというのか、楽しみにしている。
It's like a parallel of as to how he confronted Beatrice when he first met her too. He talked so much trash. And now he's doing the same to his grandfather.
そう伝えよ。
Unfortunately, Kinzo's voice was not picked up by the receiver, so Kirei spoke for him.
大いに上等だそうよ。いい？バトラ君。手加減は不要よ。あなたはルドルフさんの息子。いいえ、私の息子よ。
At the very least, it's nice that Kirei actually thinks of Battler as her son, even though he was born from another woman. And that same woman, his mother, is the same woman that Kirei despises for taking away Rudolph. So, I like their connection. I like that she holds no grudges against Battler because Battler had nothing to do with that.
誰に自慢しても恥ずかしくないところを私にも見せてちょうだい。
Alright everyone, I'm going to end the video here for today. Thank you all for watching. When we come back, we're going to continue on with this story and see what happens to the rest of the cousins.